of government at the state and local levels. As legislators, you are constantly having to juggle finances for the state of Iowa. The Common Core standards represent another huge government program, and taxpayers will be forced to pick up the tab. We can make numerous valid arguments against the Common Core standards, but I think cost is one of the most compelling arguments. How much will it cost to implement the Common Core standards at the national, state, and local levels? First, let's consider the national level. The federal government often uses a carrot and stick approach to accomplish its goals. In this case, the federal government came to the table with a $4 billion carrot in the form of Race to the Top. In order to score points on their proposals, the states had to agree to adopt the Common Core standards, and that was even before the standards were finalized. Talk about signing a document that you've not read. This is the case with that situation. And of course, Obama administration, Arne Duncan, they brag about how effective they have been in using this federal monies to get all the states to agree to their little scheme. Engineers and many professionals use a concept known as benefit cost analysis. We need to know the costs as well as the benefits. The cost we will determine. The benefits would be the federal awards that were handed out. Through Race to the Top, a smaller state would get maybe $75 million max. A very large state would get up to $700 million. So the carrot was quite large, very tempting for the states. Out of the 46 states that adopted the Common Core standards, only 12 states were selected as winners for Race to the Top. Those 12 states split the award pot of $3.94 billion. Again, only 12 states won. Several years ago, I made an exhaustive search to look for a good source of Common Core implementation costs. The most reliable source that I found was a report entitled National Cost of Aligning States and Localities to the Common Core Standards. It was written by the Pioneer Institute in collaboration with the American Principles Project and the Pacific Research Institute. In this report, they calculated that the combined cost for those 46 Common Core states would be $15.8 billion, billion with a B, almost $16 billion. This covers the initial 7-year period. The Pioneer Report is not the only source of information on Common Core implementation costs. Fordham Institute also did a study, and their report was called Putting a Price Tag on the Common Core. Their report shows 3 levels of implementation. The highest level, the most expensive level of implementation, had a cost for the 46 Common Core states of $12.1 billion. When I keep saying 46 states, it's 45 states plus DC. But the failure of that Fordham report is that they left out the biggest, the most expensive category, which is technology infrastructure. And in my book, when you leave out the most expensive category, that is technology, it really destroys the credibility of that report. The Pioneer Institute did some great work on the details, and I simply took it the next step to get to a final number for each and every state. So I have those figures for all 46 states. There is a number, and it agrees totally with the Pioneer efforts. Even though I'm not an employee or have no association whatsoever with the Pioneer Institute, I do send all of my reports to Pioneer. And Jamie Gass of Pioneer sends me a thank you note every time. He has actually been questioned by various states. There was a gentleman in Utah. Who is this Henry Burke guy? Well, Jamie Gass vouched for the reliability of the numbers. Okay, here's how the cost-benefit situation shapes up on the national scale. It will cost those 46 Common Core states, as I just said, $15.8 billion. But so it's $16 billion, but they only got $4 billion in awards. So I want to ask you, is that a very good arrangement? You spend $16 billion, but then you only get $4 billion back. My math's not too good, but 4 doesn't sound like a very good arrangement to me. Okay, $16 billion total national cost, but we are here, we're Iowans. We care about Iowa, not so much about the federal situation. So let's look at our situation right here in Iowa. How much will it cost Iowa to implement Common Core standards? The answer is $193 million. Iowa did not get any race to the top funds, but the state did get a program called Teacher Quality Partnership. They got $9 million, $9.035 million. And so I wanted to give the state credit for that. So they did pick up a little bit of federal money. So what I do then on the numbers, I start with $193 million. That's the cost. I deduct any awards given by the federal government, in this case $9 million. The difference is $184. So that's the net cost for the state of Iowa is $184 million. Now where will Iowa get $184 million? I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be the taxpayers of the state. Okay, the major components of that $193 million, testing $15 million, excuse me, professional development $69 million, textbooks $29 million, technology $80 million. Technology is the most expensive category. That comprises 41% of the total cost. What about the timing of the decision? Almost $131 million, 68% of the total, will be spent as an upfront one-time cost. About 53% of that upfront cost is for professional development. When you install a new system, you've got to train the teachers. If Iowa had any thoughts about dropping Common Core, it should do it quite soon. Otherwise, the state will waste $131 million on a system that it's not going to use. Ongoing expenses. What about those ongoing expenses? The Pioneer Institute tabulated their results for a 7-year period, but the costs don't suddenly end at the end of 7 years. So we've got from 8 years on, nationally it will cost $801 million. For the state of Iowa, it's going to cost $9.4 million per year for 8 on as far as you want to go. As long as Iowa embraces Common Core, you will be spending $9.4 million per year for testing and development. For $9.4 million doesn't sound like much, but when you multiply that times 10 years, that's $94 million. So then when I take the initial net cost of 184 and then add to it the 94 million, I come up with $278 million as being the cost to implement Common Core standards in Iowa for that 17-year period. Okay, I haven't said anything about local school districts. Let's look at those numbers. Because schools are operated primarily on a local basis, schools will be very much interested in what this thing will cost, Common Core implementation. From the above discussion, you know that it's $193 million for the state, but what about those local school districts? Well, when I divided the total cost for the state of Iowa by the number of students, $392 per student would be the cost. Then going to the your website for DOE, number of students in each district. For Ankeny, simple multiplication. Ankeny, $4 million, Common Core. Cedar Rapids, $6 million. Council Bluffs, $3 million. Davenport, $6 million. Des Moines Independent, $12 million. Dubuque, $4 million. Iowa City, $5 million. Sioux City, $5 million. Waterloo, $4 million. West Des Moines, $3 million. All school districts, large and small, will struggle to pay for these expensive Common Core implementation costs. For example, where will West Des Moines Independent find $12 million? Where will Cedar Rapids and Davenport find $6 million apiece to implement Common Core? Now, the high Common Core implementation costs will prove especially onerous for the smaller school districts in the state. Janesville Consolidated, they'll need $99,000. Mason City will need $1,439,000. Osage will need $351,000. I am guessing that the school districts will come to the Iowa DOE and to you as legislators, Iowa legislature, for the money. They don't have the money themselves. They will come with their hat in hand looking for some dollars. These high costs for Common Core implementation should be a strong reason to drop Common Core in the state of Iowa. I urge you to support HF 2140, HF 2141 to remove Common Core from the state of Iowa. Thank you very much.